the business. Thanks for coming out tonight.
I wrote me a manual, a step-by-step booklet for you to get.
Oh, I make money move.
You can't see me, my time is now.
What up, guys? Welcome back to the Fitness Times Business Podcast. My name is Joseph Mencel. I am your host. Got a little treat for you guys today. Special guest in today's show, my man Mike Hulusi. Welcome, brother.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me, bro.
Man, we just had an awesome conversation off camera, and I cannot wait to unpack your story for the listeners and the viewers. I think you guys are going to get, like I said, you guys are in for a treat. You're going to cop so much knowledge out of this episode. Mike's story is incredible. Just to put it quite simply.
It's a long one.
It is a long one, man. It is a long one. I think, where we'll start, I'm going to let you introduce yourself because obviously you're a bodybuilder. You can tell that. Well, the viewers can tell that if you're listening to this. Yeah. Mike is a giant man. He's a super heavyweight bodybuilder in the IFBB. He's 2 times Queensland overall champion. But there's a whole lot more to you than just bodybuilding, man. So real quick, just give us a little Kentucky tour of Mike Hulusi, and then we're going to take a deep dive into your incredible story.
Sure, man. Well, I mean, look, I started out bodybuilding 6 years ago. I'm a father of 3.
Yep.
I have as of February, 9-year-old, 7-year-old, and 5-year-old, little girl and 2 boys with my wife, T. We live down in South Melbourne. At the moment, I run a coaching full-time online with my one team. Shout out to the crew, one team. I know they're all watching this, that's for sure. And so, look, we've just spent, I suppose, the last real 10 years really trying to build a life, that supports positive energy, for the kids. And for me, I've been lucky enough to be blessed with the opportunity to follow my dream and be in bodybuilding. So I come from a fairly broken background, with my family and upbringing. I've battled a lot of weight issues in my younger days, which has then fueled sort of, I suppose, my intensity towards my approach to nutrition and training now. So, yeah, look, I mean, it's been a long road, but I feel like at the moment we're in a really good spot, in terms of really trying to, I suppose, look towards the next stage of our life. Okay.
So you're a father of 3.
Father of 3.
You're a husband.
Yes.
You're a bodybuilder. I would say, in my personal opinion, one of the top amateur bodybuilders in Australia at this point in time. One of the bodybuilders right on the verge of, Australia's next
Procast.
Yeah, 100%.
2021.
You're also a businessman and an entrepreneur. And you are really the perfect guest for this podcast for Fitness Times Business. Man, listen, I want to start with, you mentioned that you've come from a broken family.
Yeah.
And your teenage years in particular, you had to conquer a couple of very significant adversities. I'd just like you to talk us through that real quick.
Yeah, so look, a brief rundown, because obviously, as with anyone's story, there's a lot of detail, okay? But like if you want like a synopsis, okay?
Yeah.
The back cover type version. When I was 13 or 12 years old, my parents split, and we were one of 8 kids. So very split. I didn't see my mum for the next 6 years. My dad had a basically mental breakdown. So from the ages of 13 to almost 17, I was basically working full time. We had a cleaning business. So my life as a 13-year-old was essentially go to work about 11:30 night PM. I'd drive an old high-ace column shifter van to work, then Monash University in Berwick. I'd clean the whole university by myself. I'd leave about 7:30 AM in the morning before the staff arrived. Go home, get my little brothers and sisters ready for school. I'd drive them to school. I was 13. I'd drive them to school. I'd come back home, then I'd walk to the bus stop and I'd catch a bus to school. And they used to my dad used to pick them up from school, bring them home. But I went to school, did my thing, and I come back home, do some homework, cook them dinner, make sure that they did their homework. My dad was just basically clinically depressed, like in a room, did nothing for 4 or 5 years. And then I go to bed about sort of 9 o'clock, get up 11:30 and do it all again. So, I mean, I got so confident that I used to leave work we'll leave the university as a 13-year-old in a hiace van, and I go through Macca's drive-thru on the way home to get breakfast for my little brothers and sisters. Like, and they'd be looking at me in the drive-thru window like, what's going on here? I'm like, you want the money or not? And I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
But, so that was the start. And when I was 16, I was jumped and attacked. I spent the next 2 weeks in a coma. I was stabbed. I was bashed with cricket bats, baseball bats. I lost 20-30% of my blood at the time. And after that sort of near-death experience, I sort of wanted to reach out to my mum, who I hadn't seen in a long time. And when I did that, my dad basically kicked me out. So I was almost 17, now living by myself. I moved to the city, worked multiple jobs. I wasn't allowed to see my little brothers and sisters either, who I'd just raised basically for the last 4 years. So it was I suppose, a rough start. We had good times when I was young. I remember the good times, but I suppose those years that I remember the most were the hard ones.
Of course.
And so it was challenging. It was really challenging coming out of that. And then, trying to sort of, I suppose when you're young, you look to your parents to provide yourself with examples on how to be, how to live, how to act, how to love, how to do business, all the things in life. And it's tough when you think back because, when you haven't got sort of the memories of your parents teaching you those things. And you're left to fend for yourself, and you look to other, I think, influences in life, sometimes the wrong influences, and for me, so I went through rough patches, from that sort of 16, 17-year-old up to 19-year-old. I had an electric shock and I was put in a coma for a week from electric shock when I was 19, almost died again, started seeing my mum again at that time. And those were really the rough years. That makes sense. And then I met my wife and things changed. Thanks, T.
So, man, you mentioned to me as well that coming up as a teenager, you were overweight.
Yeah, heavily overweight.
Right. And I guess, you can tell me if this is true or not, but dealing with that sort of trauma and those sorts of multiple traumas at such a young age, where do you turn for some sort of comfort, some sort of relief,
Well, I suppose I was heavily overweight. My youngest memories of, people sitting on top of me in primary school calling me fat, and poking me and all those, bullying things that happened. Yeah. And so I was the kind of kid where I wouldn't go to a family barbecue, and jump in the pool without wearing clothes, oversized t-shirt, shorts. I wouldn't go to the beach. No way. Showing my body was just like absolutely disgust for me. Yeah. And I always looked up to Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I saw those Rocky,
we got the posters behind you.
And that's what I saw. That's always what I wanted.
Yeah.
But I suppose not dealing with emotions, eating our emotions. Exactly. Is what I did a lot when I was young because there was no manual on how to deal with this sort of stuff. I was at that time, it's literally survival. It's like, what's going to get me through to tomorrow? What's going to get my brothers and sisters through? And survival instincts kick in.
100%.
And so we make decisions not based on, again, what's going to be best for my body composition, we make decisions on what's going to get us through mentally, emotionally, and physically at those times.
How do you go from that as a teenager, because at that point you're still a teenager when you have your electric shock, you're in a coma, and then early 20s to where you are today? Like, how does that transition come about?
I suppose I peaked at about 136 kilos, like no gym, just fat, obese. In saying that, I know you see some people who are really obese, you think wow, I hit it quite well. I was always looked big, but I hit it a little bit better, but I was 136 kilos. I was morbidly obese. After I think that I just got sick of feeling like that. I wanted to look better. So I started doing just like a shit ton of cardio, man. I would do crazy amounts of cardio, morning, night. I'd go to the gym, I'd run 60 minutes and then do weights. Did everything backwards. Yeah. I didn't even read any magazines to work out what was the best way. I thought green tea was healthy, so I drank as much green tea as I could. But I just I just try to make good decisions. And but I'm a very sort of intense guy. And people who know me will probably testify that with that sort of intensity, I'm either all in or just not in at all.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's almost with everything in life. And so accepting that helps, because I think people can be like that, but not accept it. And that sort of leaves them confused. But I accept it now. So I thought that at that stage, if I'm all in or all out, like I'm just going to be all in. And so rather than yo-yoing up and down, I decided just to commit to like eating healthy. And then someone suggested once, well, hey, why don't you do a bodybuilding competition, because you're strong. I was always strong in the gym. And I did some boxing earlier on, but why don't you give it a go? And so I essentially decided back in 2014 to start training properly, and then picked a show at the end of 2014 to competing. INBA, Victoria at Moonee Valley, Legend Champions Room, I think it's called.
Good
there.
times, good times.
Yeah. I remember Steve Fatale won that show. He's had an amazing body back then from what I remember. And Scott Goble prepped me for the show. And I remember competing. I did a 20-week prep. Got down from 100 kilos down to about 80 kilos on stage. Yeah. Then I wasn't in like in crazy condition, but I had abs. But for the first time in my life, I had abs. I had abs. So it was pretty good. But I remember getting backstage and started seeing people take their tops off and get the final bronzer on and whatever else. And I just freaked out. And I said to my wife, I was like, I can't do it. Yeah. And my daughter was there as well, but she was only 1 or 2. And I remember my wife said to me, she said, I didn't put up with 20 weeks of dieting for you to not get up there. So
on stage.
Get your clothes off, you get up there. So she forced me up there, and I sort of competed once then and just fell in love with it. I think I entered 3 categories, and each time I competed, like on the stage, I got more confident. I didn't win anything. I didn't even get called out. But I loved the experience.
You love the process.
Yeah, I love the process. Yeah. I love the fact that I could control the outcome. Yeah. So I look at a lot of things in life, and how I view my body today is it's a result of the hard work that I put in. So bodybuilding, for instance, you can't buy it. You can't get gifted it. You can't get it handed down from your parents. You can't inherit it. Like you can't cheat your way to that. If you're standing there on a stage and you're winning competitions, as an example, or you're achieving anything from a purely a look standpoint, it has to come from hard work. Yeah. So I love the fact that I could achieve something purely based on the amount of work I was prepared to put in. And, I don't see anything as hard work. It's either you want it or you don't at the end of the day. So there's a process. Things in life are simple, not easy. People often mistake simple and easy. Yeah. Think, because it's simple, it must be easy. No, it's a simple process. It's not easy. But I don't need it to be easy. I need it to be worth it. Correct. And for me, achieving those results, being able to control something for the first time in my life as well, which is important, because throughout my life, when I was younger, like you feel out of control. I had to go to work at midnight. Otherwise, my dad would lose his house. I used to write his invoices. I used to pay the mortgage just to go shopping. And so everything in my life up to that point seems like I made choices based on survival, and there was no really control for me. I didn't feel in control at all. But for the first time, I felt like, again, I was getting results for something that I could control. And so I went from 136 kilos down to 80 kilos on stage. So, 56 kilo weight loss there, fat loss. And then I'm back up to 130 kilos now. Relatively lean.
Different body composition though, Mike.
For an off season. But
so you've gone from, 2014 was that first prep and that first show. And shout out to your first coach, Scott Goble. And then you've just fallen in love with bodybuilding, with the process of bodybuilding. Like you mentioned, you said you're kind of all in, or you're not in at all. You are all in, right? And then the results as well, right? Because being overweight up until that point in your life, you mentioned for the first time you're seeing your abs, you're looking good, you're feeling a bit more confident.
Absolutely.
Just with the way that you're looking aesthetically as well. And then you go 2015, you attend a camp with Milos Sarcev.
Right? Milos.
And then Milos,
amazing guy, Milos.
You guys connect, right? And Milos decides to be your coach.
Yep.
Or you ask him to be your coach, and engage him for his coaching services. And then you step up into the IFBB. But once again, you do an IFBB show and you come third out of 3 people.
Yeah.
So you're loving this sport, you're loving the process, but I guess the external validation is not there, right? It's all internal.
Well, I mean, you look at some guys who they compete for the first time, second time, and people talk about them like, wow, like these guys, this is the next big thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I remember back at those shows, Steve Pentaris.
Yeah.
He won, and everyone was like, he's the next pro. Do you know what I mean? And I remember those guys coming up then, like even Adam Rochester was a junior back then as well. So everyone was like, wow, amazing. You know, Adam didn't win either, but everyone was talking about him.
Yeah.
And so no one was talking about me, but I didn't need people to talk about me then.
You didn't need
like,
that
sure, it was nice.
validation. Yeah.
But for me, it's like, I wanted to win.
Yeah.
But I suppose I had enough confidence in, so I went from 80 kilos on stage in 2014 to 100 kilos on stage in 2015. So I put on 20 kilos of stage weight in better condition. I wasn't in the best condition, but I was in better condition. So it's all relevant compared to what you were.
Yeah.
And so I drew enough confidence. I'm saying, well, if I can do that, then what else can I do? And so for me, it was like, okay, I'm not winning shows. I want to, but you can either give up or you can keep working.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not afraid of hard work. The time is going to pass anyway. It's just, what are you going to do in the meantime?
Correct. And it's such an important point, Mike. I want to get your story out, and then I want to go diving down these rabbit holes. But I just want to mention this because we're talking about it at the moment. It's such an important part, and you would see it with your coaching, right? Is the athletes who get into the sport of bodybuilding, and particularly the competing side of it, just for the external validation, just for the pro cards, just for the trophies, just for people Instagram, social media, and all that shit. And I think that that's something so valuable. And I'm going to continue on this story, right? Your bodybuilding journey, but it's so valuable that you identified with that internal validation first and foremost. And it was like, what's valuable to me is not the trophies and the placings and the pro cards and people talking about me and all that bullshit. What's important to me is the progress I'm making as a person and the fact that I'm taking control of the variables that I have control over, and I'm getting output from my input.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it was just the shift in mindset. Yeah. And the shift became more towards just growth on every level, on every aspect. So it's like I'm changing my body, but I'm more confident. And I always had I think growing up the way I did, I always had a sense of street smart. Yeah. I could, I was better at sort of, starting the business than I was at taking orders 9 to 5 in a store. For sure. Why? Because I'd been made to make decisions already on the fly, like with the way I was brought up. So that transferred over into me having just confidence into making somewhat the right decision. Yeah. Okay. In a business standpoint. So, but then all of a sudden, with a newfound confidence in how I looked at my abilities there, I had this, again, sort of more confidence now. Well, what else can I do with business? And then, with relationships, and then with everything in life, spirituality. It feeds in, right? Yeah. Everything transfers over. So it just became this growth mindset in all areas. And that sort of that excited me to keep pushing. For sure. Then back to bodybuilding. So you go 2015, then you take a year off pretty much to grow and get better. Yeah, well, I did the end of 2017. Sorry, 15. 15. Yep. And then the thing was I want to do the Arnold's. Start of 2017. But it wasn't 16 was too close. So I thought start of 2017. So 16 was off essentially. Yeah. So you do the Arnold 2017. Destroyed me. Not good. Not a good prep. Don't look at the photos. No, let's not go back to that one. Then we jump to 2018. Now, 2018, you've gone 2014, Can I 15. Touch on 2017 Absolutely, you can. Quickly? Yeah. Just for a lot of people out there who want to look at competing for the first time as well. Again, I'm only saying this, man, because I know people who, listen to the podcast, download the episodes. They're out there, they're trusting coaches, they're willing to push the boundaries. Okay. I'll push the boundaries on multiple aspects under coach's advice as well. And so 2017, I got really, really sick from my prep, from pushing boundaries, from using things that, you don't really need to use. Okay. So I just want to make sure that everyone out there, if you're ever told to use something by a coach, no matter how much you trust them, like it doesn't hurt to get a second opinion on that substance, okay, or on that diet plan as well, for instance. Because I know for me, like I was competing with a family, and went through a period there where I almost thought I was going to die, and that unfortunately is a dark side of the sport where, I do have an all or nothing mentality, and I'm willing to push boundaries to a certain aspect. But again, through that trial and error, I've learned along the way that health is number one as well. 100%. So anyone out there who is competing and looking to experiment with different things, do it under controlled, in a controlled environment with the proper advice, and make sure your health markers all in range. That's all I want to say in that, bro. Because like 2017 for me was a big eye opener in terms of, yeah, this is my, absolute, my pursuit, my passion, my career, but not at the expense of life.
Health.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Correct.
For sure. Then we go to 2018. Now, 2018, you move countries, right?
Yeah.
You moved to Cyprus, and we'll touch on that because that was for business purposes at the time, but you moved to Cyprus and you start competing over there. And now you start doing well, right? Now you start winning shows. Now you got people back here in Australia start talking about you as well. You get to the end of 2018 and you show up at the Queensland qualifier, Nationals qualifier at the end of 2018, and you win the super heavyweight title and you win the overall title.
Yes.
And at that point, people are like, who is this guy? Where has he come from? And that's when people start hearing the name Mike Hulusi, at least in bodybuilding circles.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? 2019 comes along. You do Bendigo and Amateur Olympia.
Yes.
Which is kind of middle towards the end of the year.
Yeah, the Las Vegas Amateur Olympia.
Yeah. And then the start of this year, you do the Arnold qualifier just before COVID hits.
Yes.
You win the super heavyweight in Queensland again. You win the overall in Queensland again.
Yes.
And you get very, very close to winning your pro card at
the Arnold's.
At the Arnold, whatever it ended up being. Whatever it ended up being.
Correct.
But you're right. And so now you're kind of, as I mentioned when we opened the show, right on the verge. You're one of the top amateurs in the country, right on the verge of earning that pro status as an amateur super heavyweight bodybuilder.
Yes.
And I think, that your bodybuilding journey is one, similar where I interview so many athletes who are kind of at your level now, right? There are the real top amateurs or they're pros and they're kind of working their way up the ranks who have a lot of success very early on in the sport. And I think that, something that's so unique about you is that you didn't have that success right at the start. It took you 4 or 5 years to start, just start winning shows.
And everyone reminded me.
Yeah, I bet. And then it flips, right? And you and I, we were having a discussion off camera, is when it flips, now you start getting a little bit of negative energy coming your way, right? Like, talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, it starts out where, oh yeah, look, you competed, like, you've got poor genetics, but you look all right. So it's like, oh, I've got, shit genetics. I get told that so often. And I'm not saying I don't either, okay? So no hate from there either, okay? But I think that I always had a mindset of when I heard about, poor genetics and then like talking to Milos and Milos really instilled a lot of confidence in me, Milos Shasev, from saying that, like, he goes, your work ethic in the gym is unmatched in what he's seen. In fact, his words were, he's only ever trained one other person with the intensity that I had in the gym, and that was Hidetada Yamagishi, if anyone knows bodybuilding. But that gave me a lot of confidence. But then you start, winning the show, and I feel good because I'm like, wow, like, I remember the first show I won, and it was in Cyprus. It was just a little local qualifier show, and I was the biggest dude there, like, easily, and people couldn't believe what the sight of me. And I thought, wow, like, I'm nothing. Like, have you guys not seen the Olympia? But I was like a spectacle over there. And I remember winning, and I was going out for the finals, and the promoter of the show said, do you want to bring your kids up on stage when you win? I was like, what do you mean when I win? Like, sorry?
What are you talking about winning? What is this
what
winning business?
About? And he's doing your kids up. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So they came up, and then I won a WABA show a couple of weeks later, and they came up again. And that was an international show. It wasn't the greatest lineup, no doubt, but it was international. We had competitors from Iran and Greece, and anyway, so it was an international show. But it felt good to at least, I can remember sort of winning, getting called first, and just thinking, wow, like, that's what it feels like. Not winning, not so I can rub it in people's faces, but it was, that, I suppose, a result from the hard work. And it wasn't just the last 12 weeks. It was 2014. Really, for me, it started before that, but it was a result of, there's some almost recognition for, the work I put in to get to that point, because I felt like it was a real road. And then you start getting negative feedback. Then you start getting called out online for no reason. Like all of a sudden, Mike looks terrible. You know, oh, he thinks he won a world championship show. It was only a WABA show. Attacks when I was like, I didn't post a photo of me winning to be like, hey, I'm the best, you know, in your faces. I posted on my Instagram because it was a thing of, hey, look where I've came from, and I want to show, like, you know, for people out there, you can do it too.
Yeah.
You know, hey, if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
Poor genetics, the worst genetics. And then coming back to sort of Australia, dealing with that criticism from here. And it seemed strange because it's like, hey, this is my home as well. But I committed to a show. Luke Timms helped me with that prep, you know, and Luke was a fantastic support for me, along with T, my wife at the time. And I mean, she always had belief in me. But if I talk about the Queensland show too much, I'll cry. man, like seriously, because getting called out first, like I went to the show and I was working away from home. I stopped work 3 days before the show. And like I was working 2-3 weeks away from home, motel rooms, you know, driving an hour sometimes to train at the smallest Anytime Fitness you could imagine. I'd turn up and it was closed. So I had to wait 3-4 hours for it to open. Like just, you know, not an ideal prep at all. And I came in the show and I was sending pictures to Luke, and Luke's like, you look good. You deserve to win today. I was like, I'm not going to win, but cool, whatever. Because so much doubt. And even though I'd won a show overseas, it was different. It was Australia. Yeah. Dean McKillop was competing. Big show as well.
The Queensland qualifiers.
Dean was competing, and it was just like, oh, yes, it's not going to be easy. And even Murray Colcutt was competing then as well. He did classic and open, but great physique. And I remember being backstage, and I sort of took my top off to start walking around to get 10, and everyone started looking and like, who's this guy? Like, you know, who's this? And I felt that energy. Not negative energy, but people were like, what's going on here? And it was just surreal. I got up on stage, and then I walked out, and people, and even the audience were like, what is that type of thing? Like they just weren't expecting it. And then I think Dean said, I got called winner for the super heavyweights. And I went off and we're going straight back on for the overall. I think Dean said out loud, everyone just stand in front of Mike when we're on stage so we don't get outsized. And it was a nothing comment.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it was like, this is happening. So we went back out, and then we went through the overalls, and they called us around a few times, but it was pretty quick. And then they announced the overall winner, me. And I was like, just, I think when everything sort of comes to that moment, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And,
it's the accumulation of up until that point, you know, not only the 5 years that you'd spent in bodybuilding, but everything that you'd been through in your life up until that point, and all of the challenge and the adversity that you had been through to kind of get to that pinnacle. You know, I can only imagine I can see it on your face right now, man.
I'm not going to say too much.
I can only imagine the emotion you would have been experiencing at that point in time.
I'm not unrealistic. It's just a local Queensland show in Australia.
Yeah.
But it was just representation of, again, results, recognition. You know, I can do this. I remember Tony came off stage and he said, like, he goes, wow, like I haven't seen you in a couple of years and you look amazing. Like, you can really win the pro card. See you in Melbourne. Yeah. And that was like, wow. Again, just a flood of emotions and not knowing how to being thankful, appreciative, you know, to my wife and family for supporting me as well. But it was like, well, I can actually do this now. Yeah. And belief. And I'll end up losing by 1.78 decision at the Nationals 2 weeks later. I thought they'd look better at Queensland, to be honest. But look, you know, it's all history now. But it was just, I suppose, a really sort of, reflection moment. And it wasn't, you know, actually when I got there, I didn't want to post about it. I thought when I'd won a show, I thought when I'd envisioned me winning a show, it would be about, wow, you know, stick it up all the haters. I did it. Yeah. But it wasn't even on my mind. Nah, like there's nothing.
Not at all.
Wasn't even thinking about the atoms and the whatevers. It was just like, it was more just internally belief. And then again, that growth mindset. What's next? What else can I do? And also for the first time, I thought, you know what, I can actually make this a career, you know. And then, I mean, that then led into me sort of, you know, starting the one team and whatever else.
Yeah.
To create support, but that's all part of it. But I mean, in terms of copying that negative energy, it was weird because you think you're going to get results and then everyone's going to be your friend. But then, you know, people will support you just as long as you don't do better than them, you know, unfortunately. And that also became my mission with one team to spread more positive energy rather than the negative energy. So again, I've always been a big believer in turning your mess into your message. So again, taking that hate and the things that I received, and then how can I now flip it, you know, and make it a mission? Absolutely.
100%. Yeah. And I just want to flip real quick because you are a businessman as well. You know, definitely a huge entrepreneurial streak, and your business and career story, you know, sits alongside this personal story, and obviously your bodybuilding journey up until this point. But I just want to, I want to start with the first business that you set up at 21.
Yep.
21 years old, effectively a sales contracting business. And at the time you were selling solar panels.
Solar panels predominantly,
right? And then you go, so you kind of set that business up. That does really well. It's at the time when government's given rebates for solar panels, and it's just a booming industry.
Yeah, correct.
And so you've done that at quite a young age. And then you go another couple of years down the road and you decide to set up another business.
Yes.
Which is a tire recycling.
Yeah.
Right.
We basically took old car tires and turned them into oil.
Yeah. And that business just also explodes, does really, really well. You were, if I'm not mistaken, the first business in the country to use this sort of technology at the time,
Correct,
right?
Yeah, so the first licensed facility ever in Australia.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we invested $6 million into that plant. So it wasn't a small plant at all. It was big. Well, it wasn't small for me. It was, you know, no bank money there.
Yeah.
It was private money.
100%. And so now you've got these two businesses kind of running in parallel to each other. You're doing really well as a businessman, as an entrepreneur. At the time, you've got almost 100 staff.
Yeah, across the two businesses.
Across the two businesses. Yeah. And then something happens.
Yeah.
Talk us through that.
Well, look, you know, we got involved with, in terms of the recycling business, we got involved with some family. I won't say from whose side.
Yeah.
But we got involved with some family, and things just turned really, really sour really quickly. You know, that business sort of ended up at Supreme Court. I think I ended up pulling a pin at about between $250,000 to $300,000 in legal fees. Just between, you know, you look back now and you say it's dumb stuff, but it was, you know, important enough to tear the business apart. And it's still at sort of court, that business there. So that sort of was just cotton wrapped in cotton wool. And that's the reason why we ended up going to Cyprus to explore new business ventures over there to do with solar.
Yeah.
So while this one was sort of on the back burner, we sort of took off overseas to try and explore some more solar stuff because Cyprus, at that time, my wife's had family there. It's where her family's from.
Yeah.
Northern Cyprus, so Turkish part of Cyprus. And, you know, the solar wasn't even being done over there. They get more days of sunlight than almost any other country in the world. It just made sense. So, we experienced, like, in solar, you know, I think I was telling you before, in the first 9 months, we turned over $3 million, you know, $4 million, and had a really good profit margin. And so it became really lucrative really quickly. And I was always, with bodybuilding was always a passion, but I always made sure that I provided the family first of all, you know, and it was my only passion. I wasn't one of those guys who sort of needed to go with the boys, you know, and drinking and partying. I did that when I was younger, but I didn't have any need for it now. So it was either bodybuilding, family, or work. You know, and I put as much energy as I can into those three. And again, I really wanted to create a lifestyle because bodybuilding is not a cheap pursuit by any means as well, where I could provide a lifestyle to my family where they were comfortable and taken care of, number one, but then, you know, supported me to pursue my dreams as well. So I had different, you know, I suppose motivations as to why I put so much energy into, you know, I always wanted to work for myself because it's just, again, from that upbringing, it's how I was wired to work best. I always wanted to do more, something new, and we had aspirations. And to be honest, the recycling, when it first took off and we had all the government support, you know, we thought we were going to sell that for $100 million and just retire because that was the kind of feedback we were getting. But things took a turn, you know, and how we feel at that time, to be honest, okay, So when it first happened, I just blamed everyone else.
Yep.
I blamed the family member who got involved. I blamed the extended family. I blamed the government. I blamed everyone. Wasn't my fault.
A lot of finger pointing.
Yeah, a lot of finger pointing, and at the time it felt, it was the only thing that felt good was to say it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. This was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But then things just got worse and worse financially. I started just savings were gone. I thought, if I keep pointing the finger, it's not going to essentially get any better. So I just took responsibility. This is my fault. I'm in control. I'm going to start making some moves now to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as soon as we accept responsibility, even though you might not think it's your fault, as soon as you accept responsibility, you actually accept control of the situation. When you don't accept responsibility, when you point the finger, you're saying, I'm not in control.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're not in control of a speeding car, you're going to crash.
You can't do anything about it,
Can't do anything. So I took control, took responsibility, and just started making, decisions to put us back on track.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a part of Cyprus. That was also a part of coming back to Australia for different business opportunities. So I think that's where it's, and look, at the moment now, from the business standpoint, after that business sort of had a breakdown, I went back into solar because I had a lot of industry contacts there.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing more sales training and I did very well. I worked a lot of hours as well.
Yeah.
Did a lot of sales training, contracting, which again, did very well. But with COVID hitting, it sort of gave me the first chance in forever to step out of that corporate-ish world.
Yep.
If that makes sense. We got stuck down in Melbourne after I competed. When I say stuck, they closed the borders.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just said, I'm not going to rush back into it. Because we always wanted to do something else in terms of something to do with fitness and, the industry that I was passionate about.
Yes.
Helping people more. But the attraction was always the quick money. Well, I can make more money here now.
Mm-hmm.
So COVID gave me the first sort of chance to step back and say, well, now I can actually focus on, watering the grass that I want to grow the most.
Yeah.
So when I focused on one team and the coaching side of things, things really took off there. And so at the moment where it's like I couldn't take on a full-time position anywhere else because it is my full-time job.
Yeah.
Is helping out, the team. And I'm really, really proud of that shift because, for people to sort of trust you with helping guide them, I don't take for granted. They're not a paycheck to me.
Mm-hmm.
Their results literally become as important to me as they are to them. And I put my heart and soul into that team. But like I said, I'm really, really thankful that, again, there's people out there who trust me enough to help them and it allows me to earn a living by helping them as well at the same time. So I take nothing for granted.
Mike, I want to dive into some of these experiences of yours, man, because I think this is really where a lot of people will resonate with different parts of your story, right? And where we are at this point in time, we mentioned COVID. Obviously, we're very much still within the jaws of the pandemic. In Australia, we're kind of insulated, but worldwide, very much probably in the eye of the storm, to be completely honest. Sure. And a lot of people have been dealing with sorts of adversities that they've never had to deal with before. And your whole life you've been dealing with adversities, from being stabbed as a 16-year-old, being electrocuted as a 19-year-old, dealing with, even your passion, bodybuilding, just dealing with blow after blow with bodybuilding, coming close to death in 2017 on the business side of things, having to go through, and when you get to the Supreme Court, it's a no bullshit court action, having to go through that, businesses, the ups and downs of business, that's natural in the life cycle of any business, moving countries, moving back, man, like what's your mindset when you come up against adversity?
Well, it's literally I think resourcefulness is our biggest resource as humans, the ability to think outside the box. I can compare us to animals, and like if you're a lion as an example, you're looking to hunt and kill, or you're looking to reproduce. There's not much thought pattern there. These flight and fight responses, they're 2D, if that makes sense. Whereas we're like 3D, 4D, 5D in some cases. Yeah. Where we have the ability to really think and react and make our own decisions. That ability or freedom to to control our own thoughts is the biggest gift we have. So when I'm faced with adversity and back against the wall, my first approach is always, well, there's always another way. There's always a way out of this. You know, take responsibility, take control, and then, you know, really just decide on what you think at that time is the best course of action without hurting anyone, without, you know, with integrity, with ethics.
Yeah. Decide
on the best course of action and put everything you can into it. Yeah. And don't have a plan B. And the thing is, it might not be the absolute best way, but it's a movement. Okay. It's a movement in a different way. And I related back to, I did a lot of business with the Chinese, with that recycling. I went to China 10 times. And I was talking to them about their government, and they were saying how it's like a dictatorship. You know, there's one person in charge, the people have no say.
Yeah.
And I said to one of my colleagues over there, I said, "What do you think about that in terms of, you know, you don't have a say?" Because apparently in Australia we've got, you know, a choice, democracy, but COVID.
That's a whole different podcast, brother.
But he said that. He said, "Look, sometimes we don't always agree with the decision that the person in charge makes. Sometimes it's the right decision, sometimes it's the wrong decision, but it's always a decision." And it was really powerful. What I took from that was, that's right, you're not always going to make the right decision in life. You know, you learn, hopefully, from mistakes, and you get better at judging and making less of a wrong decision each time.
Yeah.
Okay. But the biggest kill is that procrastination of not knowing what to do. And all of a sudden, 1, 2, 3, 5 years passes and you haven't changed, you haven't grown, you haven't expanded, there's no growth. And so with adversity, that's a challenge to grow. It's a challenge to be better. And so I really take on the challenge to say, okay, well, how can I grow from this? Make a decision, move forward. It's not always going to be the right decision. No one's perfect. I'm far from it. But I'm not afraid to make a decision and to put everything I have into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And deal with the consequences later on. As I said, I try and make judgment, I weigh things up, but no one saw COVID coming. And so there's no handbook for COVID. It's like, so how do you as a business, even, you know, Massive Joe's, it's like, I take inspiration from you, from like, you know, getting hit hard, like a lot of businesses out there, but still standing, you know, and still looking at how you can grow and expand. So that adversity hits and it's like, well, it's a challenge. Let's take a step forward. Let's reach a new level. As long as you have that growth mindset, you're not afraid of adversity.
100%. I have this saying where, you know, a lot of people, when they come up and they face adversity or any sort of situation where there's a decision to be made that's difficult, right? It's an uncomfortable decision.
Fork in the road.
100%. And a lot of the time they'll say, you know, I just need a little bit more time. I need a little bit more time. I need a little bit more time. And they kick the can down the road. And it's just this, you know, just continuously kind of pushing this decision that needs to be made out until I don't know what they're waiting for, right? And maybe an epiphany of some sort, or, you know, someone to make the decision for them or whatever it is. And so what I say is it's not that you need more time, you need more courage. You need the courage to make a decision, right? And that decision should be based on your experience, your intuition, the information you have at that point in time, all of the resources that you have, but you need to make a decision. And then you need to have the courage to not just make the decision, but see the decision through without knowing what's ahead, without knowing if it's right or wrong, without knowing what's going to happen on the other side of it, but going, you know what, it doesn't matter because I will take accountability for whatever the consequences are of that decision. And I think that, you know, what you say is so true. It's a combination of when you come up against adversity, acting, you know, like take action, make a decision, do something, and know that it's probably, you know what, 99 times out of 100, it's not going to be the right decision. And you look back on it and you go, why did I do that? Or I could have done this differently, or, you know, whatever the situation may be, but you have to do something. I think so many people get into a situation where they most commonly freeze when they come up against adversity, right? Well, it's like, it's fight, flight or freeze, right?
And when you say they're kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are they kicking the can down the road? Why are they kicking it?
There's no courage.
No courage. No courage to what?
No courage to make a decision.
To fail.
Well, that too.
People are afraid to make a decision.
To make the wrong decision.
Because, well, what if I don't get it right?
Yep.
What are they going to say about me?
Yep.
It's going to be my fault.
Yep.
Yeah. Whereas if I kick the can long enough, the wind may take it in a direction, but it wasn't my fault.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't my fault.
And it comes back to ownership, man.
But if it goes in the right direction,
Right.
yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
It was my call. Yeah. But if it goes the wrong way, no, it wasn't my fault. I didn't do it. You did it.
And this is why the courage aspect is so important,
Absolutely.
right? Because it doesn't matter where the can goes. It doesn't matter if you fail. It doesn't matter what other people think.
Movement forward.
You just got to go, man.
It's like in the gym. I relate back to training
Yeah.
because that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, people say to me, "Oh, watch some of your training videos. How do you seem to fail, but then go for one more rep?"
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not afraid of not standing back up.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to fail at the bottom, but I will refuse to end that session, end that set
Yeah.
with the regret of not knowing. What if I did? Let me tell you, that one rep at the end does more for me internally, for my confidence, than the other 12 reps did. Because the ability to say, no, I'm in control. I'll go down. If I stand up, I feel amazing. If I don't, I'll make sure I do next time. So it's always a challenge to learn, and the courage to go for one rep, the courage to make a decision, the courage to take action. Yeah, absolutely key to life in all aspects. Training, business, relationships,
Yeah.
spirituality.
Where do you think that comes from in you? Just that effectively lack of fear of failure.
I think because when I stopped caring about when I say stop caring, it's not that I don't care what people think about me.
Yeah.
It's that I'm comfortable with who I am. I know internally my heart. I know my intentions. I know my integrity. I know what I stand for. And so I think it came from that growing up where I was afraid to fail because I felt like I failed like my whole life. And so I was making decisions based on, well, what does that kind of person think about me? Well, all these decisions not based on what I wanted to do or necessarily what I should be doing, but just trying to save face almost. So experience probably is where it comes from the most, but also comes to a point in time where I'm like, I'm really, really comfortable with people not vibing me or not liking me for whatever reason it may be, because I know who I am. And if my family's comfortable with me, I'm not afraid to make a decision and fail. Okay. It doesn't mean that I don't take these decisions seriously. Like, when you're dealing with finances, with kids involved, it's like, my greatest fear is being a failure to them. My greatest fear is to, not provide security and safety to my kids. Like that's huge. Bigger than one set in the gym. You know what I mean? But it's like, again, I suppose it's just, it comes from a confidence in myself that regardless of what anyone says, if it is the wrong decision, then I'm going to be able to flip it. I'm going to have the chance to make another decision. There's always going to be another chance to continue that decision or to, make amends. The plan changes along the way. The course changes along the way. We have to adapt. We have to be resourceful. And I'm not afraid to, I suppose, adapt and be resourceful. Move to another country. Yeah, let's do it. No dramas. I mean, I moved. It took me 3 days to decide, not even. Asked my wife, I said, we're going. We'll do it. And she was like, you sure? I'm like, yes, let's do it. Like, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't afraid. Yeah, we'll make it work.
We'll find a way.
Find a way.
This incredible confidence that you have built in yourself and this battle against self-doubt. We were talking about the how you see with the members of one team, the members of your clients who you coach, and you see what they do in the gym and your belief in them in the gym and in your coaching of them through their fitness journey translate over into other areas of their life. I love to give really practical advice to the listeners and the viewers with how they can instill these sorts of things in their own lives, right? And I know that one of the things that a lot of people really struggle with is self-doubt or lack of confidence, is just the internal belief that says, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I don't have what it takes, and all of the rest of that.
I don't deserve it.
I don't deserve it.
Internally,
I haven't
they
earned
voice
it.
Yeah.
Right. It's all of these automatic negative thoughts that steal your happiness. I call them ants.
They sabotage us.
They do 100%. If you could give one piece of practical advice through your experience that you personally have been through, or you've seen through one team, that you could say, you know what, this is how you begin to stamp out self-doubt and start building step by step, brick by brick, self-confidence.
Sure.
What's your advice?
So I would start with the basics. I would say that, it's important to have the end goal in mind.
Yeah.
Like me, I might say, I'm not afraid to say it, I want to stand on the Olympia stage. I want to stand and compete, okay, and earn my spot there, okay. Not win, okay, but earn my spot on the Olympia stage. That's in bodybuilding. That's my ultimate goal. But I realize there's stepping stones to get there, okay? There's daily things that I have to do that will equal that ultimate goal. So the biggest thing for anyone who wants to start any journey, it's about building confidence in yourself. And this starts with making promises that you can keep to yourself. Because when you become a promise keeper to yourself, you build confidence. And I use the analogy of this, okay? Just an example. If I say, you say to me, Mike, I'm landing in Melbourne. I'll be there 6 p.m. Can you pick me up? I'm like, yeah, man, I'll get you. No worries at all. You land 6:10, 6:20, 6:30, 6:40. You call me, no answer. 7 p.m, you catch an Uber. You see me the next day. Hey, man, like, where were you? Joe, I forgot, man. Sorry. Yeah. And you're like, it's the first time. Don't worry about it. No stress. A couple months later, you land again. You're like, hey, can you pick me up? I'm there at 5:30. Again, 5:30, you land, 5:40, 5:50, no answer. You catch an Uber. I see you again the next day. You're like, Mike, man, like, what's the go? I'm like, man, I forgot. Sorry. The kids, you know how it is. Like, yeah, okay, man. No worries. Next time you fly to Melbourne, are you even going to call me?
Nope.
No. Why?
Because you let me down
let
2
you
times
down.
in a row.
So what do you think happens when people say, you know what, internally,
Yep.
I'm saying, you know what, Mike, I want to lose 5 kilos. Example, yeah? And then it doesn't happen. You promise yourself, I'm going to take these steps. I'm going to eat clean. I'm going to do the right things. And I'm going to lose 5 kilos. And you don't do anything about it. You fail in every aspect. You make another promise. I'm going to, save $1,000 in the bank. Each day I'm going to save $5. It's a simple plan. But then, you might get up to $200 in the account. Black Friday comes along. Massey Joe's has a sale.
There goes the $200.
You spend the money, yeah? Yep. So you fail again. The point is that when we make promises to ourselves, little things subconsciously along the way, and we don't follow through, we lose confidence in ourselves. And to the point where you can make a promise and subconsciously, your subconscious goes, Mike, you're talking rubbish again. You're not going to do it.
Yep.
Don't even try. Don't even try. Because you lose this belief in yourself. So the easy way to get that belief back is to start small. Maybe not I'm going to lose 10 kilos. Maybe not I'm going to compete in bodybuilding. Maybe I'm not going to save $1 million. But you might say this week, I'm going to save $100. Yeah. This week, I'm going to, drink a liter of water every morning before my first meal. This week, I'm going to do something small. And at the end of that week, when you've done it, you're like, wow, made a promise, small one, but I kept it.
Yep.
What else can I do? And you build on that
Stack
over
'em.
and over and over again. And eventually that little snowball turns into an avalanche and you gain this momentum all the way down the hill of success. Okay. If you think about it, you're going down the hill of success, but you've got to get that momentum first of all. So when you get to the bottom, then you can take that next hill to the top. And eventually building that confidence in yourself, like I said, whether it's health and fitness or business or relationships, relationships, it might be I'm going to have at the end of the day, turn the TV off, turn the Instagram off and have a 5-minute conversation with my wife or partner before bed, and after a week of doing that, you might know something different about it or them, it's small things. So understand the end goal. It's important to have the big goal. Yes. But understand that you need to build confidence along the way. So I think small steps and making small daily advances towards those things, tick the boxes daily, and you're going to build the confidence to get there.
I like to say win every day.
Yeah.
That's the goal, is win every day. And winning every day means making promises to yourself that you keep.
Yeah.
So you make a promise to yourself every day, or 2 promises or 3 promises or whatever it is, and you keep them. You do it. And then exactly like you said, you stack Monday win with a Tuesday win, with a Wednesday win, with a Thursday win. You win the week, you win 2 weeks in a row, you win 3 weeks in a row, you win the month, you win the year, and you just start turning shit around.
Absolutely.
Another practical piece that I just want to give on that as well is, and you mentioned it, is start very small with your promises, right? Don't go right to the end goal and, make this promise that's going to take you 12 months to.
It's unrealistic.
It just needs to be small, man. Like, I love the example you gave. Just drink a liter of water before you get up, or as soon as you get up. Don't cheat on your diet.
Simple.
Just simple, very small little promises. And as you develop, the keeping promises to yourself muscle is like a muscle, right? You're not going to go to the gym, put 200 kilos on a bench press and go and bench that for 10 reps.
Progressive overload.
You might, but I'm not doing it.
Progressive overload.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to go and you're going to put 10 kilos on each side and you're going to build up, and then you're going to come back a couple of weeks later and you're going to do 15 kilos and then 20 kilos and so on and so forth, right? It's progressive overload. The keeping promises to yourself muscle works exactly the same way. 100%. You start very small and you start stacking those wins on top of each other. You start stacking those promises on top of each other. And before you know it, you get very good at keeping promises that you make to yourself. And so you can keep more significant promises, more difficult promises.
Absolutely. And
you build up the ability to make sure that you follow through. And it's just building effectively resilience. The other piece that I want to give as well, though, is especially when you're talking about people who are in a rut, effectively. Let's just call it a rut, or they're kind of down and out, right? And their daily habits and their daily rituals do not align with keeping promises to themselves, do not align with where they see their best self heading towards, right? So they might do, they might have goals and aspirations around their body composition and their health and fitness, but they're in the habit of eating shit before they go to bed every night. Or they're in the habit of having, a glass of wine or a beer before they go to bed at night, or, eating, having sugary drinks instead of drinking water. You can't just drop bad habits. You need to replace them with good ones.
Yeah, for sure.
So my advice to you guys, if you're looking at starting to exercise this keep the promises that you make to yourself muscle, is to figure out what the bad habits are that don't align with your best self, and start replacing those bad habits bit by bit, small part by small part, with habits that do align with your best self and the direction that you want to take your life.
And I think that recognizing those patterns as to why you do them.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe who you do them with. Okay. And why I mentioned that is because willpower is a muscle.
Yes.
We need willpower to start anything.
Yeah.
We need willpower to start a business. We need willpower to start a weight loss journey. We need willpower to, ask a girl out. We need willpower to start.
Yeah.
But the thing is that environment in so many cases is stronger than willpower. So when willpower only get us so far, but if you're trying to swap, this bad, essentially habit, okay, or habit that's not supportive of your goals, doesn't align with those, that vision. It's like you can swap it, but essentially try and get around an environment that's supportive of you replacing that habit as well.
Yes.
And I relate that back to one team, because so many people who jump on the team, okay, they come from a place where they're ready in their life to make a change, to have a growth mindset, to start off with weight loss, or I want to look better, feel better, but it always goes into so much more.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is they come to me and they start this, they're motivated, they probably looked at the, message button to me or any coach, for a month before they actually press it.
Yeah.
They get the willpower to press it, contact, great, I've got a plan. Yes, I'm there. Then they go to work with a Tupperware. And the mates are like, what's going on, Joe?
What's happening here?
Like, get a pie, man.
Yeah.
Where's the big M? And there's only so often that most people will take that and be like, okay, I'll be able to willpower through that, okay? So what I try and do with one team is create an environment or a community that gives support to the members.
Yeah.
So because I'm ready to take on a new goal, my health and fitness or business or whatever it may be, doesn't mean my family's ready, doesn't mean my friends are ready, There are different stages in life. Now, I'm not saying cut them out. They're your friends and family, but understand you may need to make new friends as well that are supportive to those goals and those environments.
Yeah.
Because that's going to allow you that when that doubt starts to build from your family who doubt and they because they're not ready out of fear, they might just not come at you in the most positive context. It's important to have that almost second sort of group that will be supportive, that understand, that are on a similar journey. So try and get an environment that is supportive of you replacing those bad habits with good habits, supportive of you making those small promises to yourself, and that also keeps you accountable.
Yes.
Yeah. Like that says, hey man, we wake up in the morning, like I know with my group, and it's like, by the time I get out of bed, maybe 5:30, there's like 3 or 4 early risers. They're up, morning team, cardio done, meals packed for the day. It's like when you wake up to those messages and you're seeing 3 or 4 people already killing it, you're like, fuck man, I better get on my game now because
you're going to level up.
Yeah, level up. You know what I mean? And so take the positive energy from that as well. So just add on, bro, for sure.
Yeah. Man, the final thing that I want to dive into is with everything that you have come up against and all of the challenges that you have faced, confronted, and ultimately conquered, it would be very easy for you, and not just you, I see this a lot with a lot of people who have come up against some hard shit, right? Like, losing a business, being fucking stabbed in the face, just hugely traumatic situations, to get to a situation where there's a lot of negative energy and there's a lot of negative energy being put into the universe, and there's a lot of negative karma being put into the universe. You seem to have taken everything and almost put it into the mic machine and flipped it around and spit it back out as positivity in everything you do. Like you walked in here earlier today to Massive Joe's headquarters, gave you and your wife a little bit of a tour around, and I can just, I'm big on picking up energy from people, right? And I can just feel positive energy coming from you. I can feel the positive vibes. I can feel the resonance between you and I. Is that a conscious decision? Like, where does that, why are you so positive?
Well, I think that I believe in like karma universe. I believe that, we get out literally what we put in to the world. Life supports those who support life. Okay. So life supports always those who support life. So I make a conscious decision, to try and see the best in everyone. Everyone's, essentially innocent for me before proven guilty. Yeah. So I try and see the best out of people. I try and bring the best out of people as well. And I can only do that by a transfer of energy, which is positive. Okay. I know deep down my integrity, my intentions are always good. Like I came to headquarters today with, the best intentions. Yeah. With appreciation for you inviting me here. I always try to remain as humble as I can. One thing I mentioned quickly before when we talk about, making promises to yourself and you build this confidence up, it's important along the way to remain humble, okay, to pay your dues, to give back to the world. Because like I see a lot of people, even on the team sometimes, build up this confidence and you pump them up so much, all of a sudden they become this egotistical, just, force. You're like, hey man, like you got to bring yourself back down as well. So what I try and do is make a conscious effort to give back on a daily basis. If something goes wrong in my life, it might be an injury, it might be a financial setback. If my son falls over and scrapes his knee, anything happens that seems like a little bit of negative energy, I try and I automatically say, what have I missed? What have I not done? What have I forgotten? What do I owe someone some money? Did I forget to pay back, $5 here? Or did I, what did I do? What's the universe trying to tell me? And immediately at that point in time, I'll donate money. I'll give to charity. I'll just do random acts of kindness as much as I can.
Yep.
Try and put back more good energy out there as well, because that comes back to you. You should always give before taking. Yeah, life is about giving. And I try and set those standards within myself. And, I come from a place of, in my younger days, depression, my anxiety from being jumped on the beach by 20 people, stabbed in the back twice, nose crushed, cricket bats in my face, baseball bats over the back of my head. They crushed my knuckles. They held my hand down on rocks and beat my hand till there was nothing left. So I had KYs for 6 months to build back support there. Some anxiety from that, from the electric shock. Those are things I deal with daily. But I choose to try and I recognize the patterns. So it took me a while to recognize the patterns of, why I did certain things along the way. When I was younger, I used to tell a lot of white lies. Why? It's like when I started talking to my mum, I didn't want my dad to know. So it's dumb, yeah? I'm just talking to my parents. But I have to tell my dad a white lie just to be able to talk to my mum. But over time, that becomes normal to the point where you're doing it now in everyday life, in situations you don't need to.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow. I'll give you another example. Some people can take something from this as well. I had this thing when I was younger and I got a girlfriend to buy her expensive gifts. Yeah? Why? I don't know. I'd get paid and I could have had to blow that whole money, the paycheck, on expensive like boots, handbag, you name it. Had to be designer, had to be something. And at one point I was like, why am I doing this for? Like even with my wife, when we first got together, it was like I had a day off. I got paid the day before and she came home to presents and she never expected it. She took it, but she didn't know why, yeah. But the point was, it's like, I'm like, why am I don't need to do this. I remember the night my parents split up. And my mum was, they had a very open relationship anyway. So I'm not getting into why they split up, but she was on the phone to this other she was out with this other guy. And my dad called her and I was up because I was going to work to clean at like midnight. And I heard them talking and they were yelling and like, why are you out with him for, whatever. And it all happened and my dad hung up the phone and he said, yep, that's it. Your mum's gone to live with whatever his name was. I know it, but anyway, because he buys her expensive boots. Because the day before he had bought my mum a $500 pair of boots. So it's like my mum left my dad because this other guy bought her a pair of expensive boots. Subconsciously, years and years down the track, what am I doing?
Buying expensive boots.
The minute that I'm scared to lose someone, as an example, I'm doing the same thing. And so that's an example of recognizing the patterns.
Yep.
Yeah. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I don't need to. And when you can make peace with that, you can then move on. So all these things have sort of led me to just try and really change the way that I interact with people and interact with the world and the energy of the world. Okay. And I'm not a yogi or a hippie type thing, but I do believe in power of energy, transfer of energy. And I try and walk into a room and really feel, well, what good can we now do, for everyone? How can we pass along, the lessons that we've learned in a positive way? Because we're all walking, we're all walking examples of good experiences, bad experiences, everything. We're experience, okay? And so the power is to talk to someone and then I enter the room a student. It's like, well, how can I learn from Joe?
Yeah.
Look what Joe's built, example. How can I take something away from this? And then together, how can we collaborate to then help, the listeners of the podcast to maybe go about and change something in their life for the better? So it's definitely a constant daily decision when you wake up to do the best you can.
Yeah.
Okay. And not just for you. Don't be about just you. Yeah. Because the world's bigger than that. You need to be about everyone. You need to be about the universe. You need to be about understanding that what you put out there will come back to you.
That's so true, man. There's, the karma is so very practical, and sometimes it doesn't play out the way that you think it might, but it always plays out. It always plays out. And, one piece of advice that I have, especially because I've seen so many people make this mistake this year, right? And it's understandable, right? You can empathize with it. It's been incredibly stressful. A lot of our listeners, this is probably the first real smack in the face that the universe has given them, is this pandemic, right? A lot of their freedoms have been taken away. A lot of, it's just who would have thought this could happen, sort of thing. And I've seen a lot of people feel very sorry for themselves, and I've seen a lot of people put a lot of negative energy into the universe because they're in that victim mentality of, why me? You know, why is this happening to me? Which is, it's ego, right? It's selfish. It's thinking about yourself. It's thinking about how you're being affected, rather than thinking about, no, this is happening to everybody. This is happening to the entire community. And my one piece of practical advice that's still very relevant, because I still, as I mentioned at the start of the episode, I think we're in the jaws of the pandemic, or the eye of the pandemic storm, and there's still a lot more to go through before we can say this is over, is take whatever negative energy that you may be harboring, that, you know, take that victim mentality, take all of that negative self-talk, recycle it like you have done, Mike, throughout your entire life, right? You're a living example of how to do it. Take it, flip it around, and find some way of recycling it and putting it as positive energy back into the universe. Yeah. Right. And it doesn't have to be, you know, you said you might go donate money to charity. If you don't have money, it doesn't have to be donating money to charity.
Intention.
It's intention, 100%. It's being a nice person. It's being a kind person. It's holding a door open for an old person so they can work through it. It's having a smile on your face. It's saying good morning to somebody, just a complete stranger. It's just being.
Calling an old friend and said, hey man, I'm just calling you, not with an intention of getting anything, just to say hey.
Just to say hey, just checking in, just seeing how you are. And, you know, the more that you can do that, and consciously as well, right? Like, a lot of people think that some people are just positive people, right?
You gotta work at that.
Of course you do. You know, it's consciously.
Progressive overload.
It's exactly right. See, this is why the fitness lifestyle and life line up so perfectly. Everything's progressive overload. But, you know, consciously, guys, just, and once again, small things, like we said, win every day, keep the promises that you make to yourself. Have a conscious intention to put positivity into the universe.
I think that one thing I heard through a lot of personal development that I did, and I encourage everyone to do some personal development, you know, don't invest into, I don't know, clothes and superficial things, invest into your personal development. But Tony Robbins, who I draw a lot of inspiration from, he had this thing where he said, turn your worst day into your best day. And it was a context of, I might think back and say, geez, you know, the worst day was when my mum left my dad and my world turned upside down, or I got bashed, I got electric shock. But how can we turn those things into the best day? And so, you know, what doesn't kill us does make us stronger. We only know strength because we've known weakness. We only truly know love when we've known hate. So we can only really know our best day when we realize what our worst day was, or what we think it was. So I might think back and think, geez, the worst day was when my parents split up, you know, or when because my dad became a shell and I didn't have that dad that I wanted. Growing up from 13 to 16, like he wasn't there. Didn't have my mum in my life. And so I didn't have parents. Wow, that was a bad day, my worst day. And I could spend my whole life thinking, poor me, victim mentality, like, you know, it's not my fault. My parents, you know, I didn't have a happy childhood, so that's the reason why I'm an asshole now. Or I can say, you know what, like, thank God that I went through what I did. Thank God I didn't have the dad that I thought I wanted to, that I thought I deserved, because now I make sure I'm the best dad I can be. And so I try and turn my worst day into my best day. I mean, if you can do that, if you can, you know, like, don't be funny about it either. Like, literally think back to your worst day and what did you draw out of it? How are you now different in a positive way because of that? Okay. And if you're not thinking how you can be, and if you are, cross it off as a bad day. Stop holding on to negativity. If you think back to COVID, what positives can you draw out of it? Surely something can happen in your life. Maybe you spent more time with family. Maybe you spent time on a hobby and became better at it.
Yep.
You know, or if you don't, you still have a chance to. If you've got extra time now, put these into the right areas and turn these bad days into your best days.
Such a powerful message, man.
Man, that'll change your life.
It's beautiful. Mike, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
It has been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast, man. You're, I'm just vibing off your energy at the moment, brother. This shit is so good. I'm sure that each and every one of you listening to this or watching the video format have just taken so much from Mike. Man, where can the listeners and the viewers find you?
Instagram mainly.
Yeah.
I'm not Facebook, but not really much at all. Mainly Instagram. So Live Like Mike, one team is the Instagram. So if I'm on there, add me. I'm always happy to engage in a conversation for general advice. I know coming up, there was times where I wanted advice, of people, and it would have been nice to have a hand. So I'm always big to, if someone wants advice, please, get in touch. If you're in Melbourne, I'm at Doherty's or Into Performance. So if you see me in the gym, please, again, come up and say g'day as well. But so connect me through Instagram mainly as well. But I want to thank you, Joe, for having me on, for inviting me out here. I've always been a big I remember Massive Joe's on eBay back in the day. I remember going to Iron Chest in Dandenong, and I said to Alvin, I said, it's cheaper on Massive Joe's on my phone. I said, so either match the price or I'm going to buy from here.
Massive Joe's.
And he wouldn't, so I bought it from Massive Joe's on eBay. But what you've done, man, for the industry, even with the IFBB, is amazing as well. So
thank you, brother.
We all draw a lot of inspiration from people like yourself who are looking to, again, put positive energy back into the world, because we need more of it. That's for sure.
I appreciate that, man. We haven't spent a lot of time together just yet, but I feel like this is the beginning of us spending a lot more time together and us doing some great things. Mike, the one thing that I do ask of the listeners and the viewers, because we create this program, we don't run ads or anything. It's completely free content, and I think it's some of the best content in the fitness and business space available. Sure. So the one thing that I do ask, if you guys have enjoyed this episode and taken some value from this show, whether it's something you can apply practically to help you level up in your life, or whether you've just enjoyed the conversation, had a laugh, resonated with Mike's story, is that you share the show. So you can share it person to person, when I ask them, whenever they're having a conversation with friends or family, and people are talking about what they've, the most recent show they've seen on Netflix, or,
definitely,
anything they've been consuming, just drop the Fitness Times Business podcast in there. But the best way that you can share is, if you are listening right now, just take a screenshot on Spotify or iTunes or whatever podcasting platform you're listening, post it in your Instagram story, and tag the both of us in the story. So it's at Live Like Mike, one team, and at Joseph Mencel. Tag us both in the story, and we love seeing those tags, and we'll make sure that we reshare them as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Mike, thank you once again.
Thank you again.
Thank you guys for listening. I hope you've enjoyed. Until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Fitness Times Business Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, and if you enjoyed listening to this episode, make sure you give us a 5-star rating. Until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side.